Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, I have been promising for quite some time now that at some point we would get into some early Islamic history. And as I am headed to Jordan this week, after having been to Egypt twice in 2025, I think it's only appropriate that we go ahead and dive into this topic of the early spread of Islam, because it's an important part of history, especially the history of the Middle East, North Africa, and of course Europe. So we're going to take a look at a video that Epic History did about 6 months ago on this topic. It's called "How Did Islam Become a Global Religion?" So I'll put the link down in the description. You can check it out without my commentary. I am going to be vlogging the trip to Jordan. We're going to be going to sites associated with the Roman Empire, sites associated with the Crusades, with Saladin. We're going to be in Wadi Rum, which is an area that's associated with World War I, with T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. So a lot of different history that we're going to be exploring there, as well as some biblical history. So it's going to be a great trip. Can't wait to bring you some of the highlights of that. Let's go ahead and dive into this one.
Islam, the second most practiced religion on earth, emerges in the 7th century from what many at the time consider a backwater, the desert region of Arabia. The founder of Islam is Muhammad, a merchant born around 570 in the city of Mecca. In about 610, in the cave of Hira, he receives a series of revelations from the angel Jibreel, known in English as Gabriel.
Yeah, it's important for us to recognize that Islam's roots are as an Abrahamic religion. We refer to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as Abrahamic religions because they all trace the roots, the foundation of what flourishes into that religion in the story of Abraham. Of course, in the case of Islam, you're talking about Abraham's firstborn son, Ishmael, that he had with Hagar, which is before he has his son Isaac with his wife Sarah, and that's a story that's told in the Old Testament.
These revelations later become the basis of the holy book known as the Quran. The spiritual truth of Muhammad's message is a matter of faith.
Right.
But his life and the impact of his message are to have profound historical significance.
Right. Much like the impact of Christianity, one thing we absolutely, whatever you think about the beliefs of Islam or Christianity or Judaism or anything else, what we cannot deny is the historical impact of Christianity and Islam in completely reshaping Europe and North Africa and the Middle East in the 1500 years or so since that time.
At first, Muhammad preaches privately to a select group of family and friends in Mecca. His message centers on the oneness of God, the need for moral reform, and the concept of Islam, submission to God.
So it's interesting talking about the oneness of God. Of course, that's a big sticking point between Islam and Christianity, is Christianity with the idea of the Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and kind of the triune nature of God, which is something I would think even most Christians probably don't fully understand, and it's not easily explained. And so this is a direct contrast to that, to say, no, God is one. Which is actually something that's in the Old Testament as well, where it says the Lord our God is one. It's in something from Deuteronomy.
In time, the followers of this new faith will be known as Muslims. Muhammad then begins to preach in public and gains loyal followers known as the Sahaba.
So by this point, he's, about 45 to 50, 55 years old. So he's kind of a middle-aged to older man at this point.
Muhammad's preaching brings him into conflict with members of his own tribe, the Quraysh. The two sides are soon in open war. Around this time, the concept of jihad begins to take shape. Jihad comes to have two meanings. The first, to strive to live in accordance with God's will, through personal effort and moral integrity.
I never knew that.
The second, physical acts of war, sanctioned by God.
And I think that's typically what most people understand about jihad is like the concept of holy war.
After years of conflict with the Quraysh, Muhammad and his followers prevail. And by Muhammad's death in 632, much of Arabia has joined the movement he founded.
So he's in his early 50s.
One of Muhammad's closest companions, Abu Bakr, is chosen as the first caliph, or successor to the Prophet. It is under his leadership and that of his successors that Islam will erupt out of Arabia to transform the Middle East and beyond. Abu Bakr and his successor Omar send Arab armies to attack the two great powers of the age, the Sasanian Empire and Eastern Roman Empire.
That's bold. I mean,
Both.
This is so early on. I didn't realize that it was so soon after the death of Muhammad that this expansion began. I thought there was kind of an incubation period. There was a little time where strengthening and growing and kind of consolidating on the Arabian Peninsula.
They're worn down by decades of conflict against each other, and Arab armies strike like a thunderbolt. One by one, the great cities of the Levant, Syria, Egypt, and Persia fall to Muslim forces.
I mean, that's 20 years after Muhammad's death. And, Islam is still in its first century at this point. It's spreading so fast.
The people who live in these lands are predominantly a mix of Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians.
Right, so you have really kind of the oldest continuous Christian community in the world are the Coptic Christians in Egypt. And, Cairo, Alexandria, there's still really, really old churches there. But it's amazing how you had this kind of stabilized détente almost between the Eastern Roman Empire and the successor to the Persian Empire. And now this new force has erupted. And when you have something like a newfound faith like Islam that fuels you and gives you meaning and gives you purpose and gives you something worth dying for, that gives you an edge over these older empires that maybe don't have that kind of fire and that kind of motivation.
These non-believers are treated as subjects by their new Arab rulers and pay taxes to them.
And that's kind of what happens for a good bit of history, right? I mean, that's kind of what happens with the Ottomans, for example. When the Ottoman Empire ends up ruling over this area, 1,000 years later, they're doing much the same thing. They are just, charging people for the privilege of being in the empire, but not of the same faith.
And worship freely. There are few forced conversions and little active preaching of Islam. And so the religion spreads slowly at first. Until now, the Quran has been primarily an oral tradition,
right,
supported by various written compilations. The exact circumstances are not clear, but during the reign of Caliph Uthman, the Quran is organized into a single text. This remains the basis for the holy book used around the world today.
This is, again, really close to the time of Muhammad that this is all happening and this is all being standardized.
In 656, Uthman is murdered.
Oh, wow.
The Prophet's cousin and son-in-law, Ali, is elected the new caliph. But others support Uthman's cousin, the governor of Syria, Muawiyah.
This is where you get Sunni and
This
Shia.
conflict triggers Islam's first fitna, or civil war. It is the root of the later division between Shiite and Sunni Muslims.
I knew that it had something to do with debate over who was the successor, but I wasn't entirely sure of the details of it.
Shia from Shi'at Ali, the party of Ali. Sunni, from Ala Sunnah, the people of the Prophet's way. In 661, Ali is assassinated by a group who become known as the Khawarij. The Umayyad dynasty seize power, moving the capital of the Caliphate to Damascus. In 680, a rebellion by Ali's son Hussein ends at Karbala, when he and his small band of followers are massacred by Umayyad forces.
And imagine, I mean, it's spread a lot already. I mean, just in these few decades, they've taken so much territory, and there's so many people here. But imagine how much more effectively they might have been able to spread had there been more unity and not so much division almost instantly.
It is a key moment in the transformation of Shi'ism from political movement to a distinct branch of Islam.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a time in history, which is most of history, where there really isn't a distinction between religion and the politics or the civil workings of the government. Christianity is completely intertwined with the kings and the dukes and the leadership of various nations and emperors. It's no different with Islam.
Shias will look to the leadership of Muhammad's direct descendants. Sunnis will look back to the time of the Prophet and his companions.
And has that changed, though? I mean, I'm guessing that Shi'ism is no longer led directly by a known direct descendant of Muhammad, or are they? It may be.
The Islamic world, riven by warring factions, plunges into a second fitna. But
this has all
after 12
so
years
fast.
of civil war and turmoil, great new conquests will follow.
I had no idea how quickly this all happened.
By 692, the Umayyads regain control of the Islamic Caliphate and resume their conquest of North Africa.
Look at how much of the old Roman Empire they now control.
Islam spreads quickly among the Berber tribes. And it is a Berber convert, Tariq, who leads Umayyad forces into Iberia.
And so we've got the Visigoths, we've got the Franks by this point. This is where we're going to get into, again, a rapid growth, because we're going to have the Battle of Tours coming up before too long, which is a big battle between the Frankish kingdoms and the Islamic Empire that's moving forward.
En route, he gives his name to Jabal Tariq, the Rock of Gibraltar.
Jabal Tariq, really? Oh, wow,
He
that's
defeats
awesome.
the Visigoth king, Roderick, and goes on to conquer much of Spain. The Umayyad Empire now stretches from the Atlantic coast to modern Pakistan.
That all happens. So I keep saying it, but it just blows me away how just, and again, this just goes to show you what having a powerful motivation can do.
Most of its population remains non-Muslim. But there are now a growing number of converts across North Africa, Persia, and Central Asia, known as Mawali.
So just like what happens when Christianity spreads throughout the Roman Empire and spreads to the Frankish kingdom and the Visigoths and things like that, you're going to have a mix of motivations. You're going to have some people that are going to convert because they're genuinely moved to in their heart and they genuinely believe. There are going to be others who convert out of political expediency. It just makes sense to be what the rest of your culture is. And some may do it out of fear.
Treated as inferiors by the Arab elite, stoking resentment. And in 747, rebellion erupts in Khorasan. The Abbasid family, claiming descent from the Prophet's uncle Abbas, claim leadership of this revolt. In 750, they defeat the Umayyads at the Zab River. then systematically wipe out almost the entire dynasty.
Wow.
Only one Umayyad prince, Abd al-Rahman, escapes
Heard that
to
name.
Al-Andalus, where he establishes the independent emirate of Cordoba in 756. The Abbasids build a new capital, Baghdad, which becomes a great center of learning. This is the dawn of what is often called Islam's Golden Age.
Yeah, I mean, this is a time when, as what was left of the Roman Empire is in decline, and you have these other, kingdoms rising up in Europe, because there's this unity of purpose, you're going to have a lot of innovations in science and in medicine and things like that.
With remarkable advances in mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and engineering. Shi'ism, now a fully distinct branch of Islam, continues to spread across the Caliphate, despite sporadic repression by its Sunni rulers.
And we can kind of see here how it's really concentrated in the area that is today Iran.
Sects emerge within Shi'ism, including Twelver Shi'ism, Ismaili Shi'ism, and Zaidi Shi'ism.
No different than what happens with Christianity, right? It just takes a little longer for Christianity to start dividing like that. But, similar thing. You have human beings, and human beings bring their own biases and attitudes and preferences and ideas, and inevitably it leads to splits.
Sufi movements, which focus on inner spirituality and detachment from worldly distractions, also emerge in this period, though their early history is uncertain. By the 900s, much of Persia, Egypt, and Syria has turned to Islam. There are practical as well as spiritual benefits from becoming Muslim. Adopting the faith of the ruling elite offers advantages in business, networking, and status.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying earlier. There are many reasons why a person converts that might not necessarily have to do with being moved in faith. Now, that doesn't mean they don't have faith. It just means that maybe their initial motivation isn't necessarily the purest. But, you notice they're talking about how more and more people are becoming Muslim, but the map hasn't really changed for 100 or more years. It's just that in those areas where there's Islamic control, there's now a growing, they've kind of taken it from the top down, but now they're building it from the bottom up, kind of laying that foundation.
But these regions still remain religiously diverse, with large Christian and Jewish communities, as well as several smaller sects. For many years, Muslim traders have been crossing the semi-arid region known as the Sahel into sub-Saharan Africa. Among their purchases, enslaved Africans to be sold across the Caliphate. Following these trade routes, Islam gradually spreads south.
Oh, okay.
In time, as rulers and elites adopt Islam, cities like Timbuktu, Gao, and Kano will become centers of Islamic learning and culture.
I never realized that there was that much of an influence in sub-Saharan Africa.
Muslim merchants also crossed the Arabian Sea and established trading hubs along the East African coast in modern Kenya, Tanzania, and Zanzibar. These ports become centers of commerce, connecting East Africa to a wider Indian Ocean trading zone.
Now, people who have played Civilization, they already know that trade is one of the ways that you spread religion, but it's so important in how we talk all the time about seeing history through different lenses. And when you see history through trade, commerce, you start to see how other things like religion spread along trading routes, and how when those trading routes are disrupted, that can tend to lead to significant things in history. Like the fact that a trading route being disrupted is one of the main motivations for the Western European nations exploring what became North and South America.
Such complex, long-range commercial networks, of which the famous Silk Roads are also part, help Islam to spread deeper into Central, South, and Southeast Asia. In Central Asia, a semi-nomadic Turkic tribe called the Seljuks converts to Islam under the guidance of their leader, Seljuk Beg.
So you hear that term Turk, Turkish tribes, and you think, well, Turkey's over here, right? Well, just like the Huns didn't originally settle in what is now Hungary, the origin of a group of people is not necessarily the place that we associate them with today.
The Seljuks carve out their own empire across the Middle East, conquering city after city. In 1055, they capture Baghdad, becoming de facto rulers of the Islamic Caliphate.
And we're now getting right on the cusp of the time of the Crusades.
Under the Seljuks, Islamic political power and religious authority are separated. Seljuk sultans hold military and political power. Religious leadership is provided by the caliphs and Islamic scholars known as ulama.
Interesting.
In 1071, Seljuk Sultan Alp Arslan defeats the Byzantine Empire at Manzikert, paving the way for Muslim conquest of Anatolia.
Wow. This is an area that has been Greek and Roman for more than 1,000 years. I mean, this is a big deal.
Christendom strikes back.
Crusades.
Pope Urban calls for a holy war to liberate the Holy Land. And in 1099, Crusaders storm Jerusalem. Crusader states are established in the region, but remain areas of mixed faith. It is a period of political fragmentation in the Muslim world. Much of the old empire is now ruled by regional dynasties and sects. Seljuks, Ghaznavids, Almoravids, and Fatimids. But in the 12th century, a Kurdish general known as Saladin succeeds in uniting Egypt, Syria, and Iraq.
I'm excited because one of the things we're going to see is one of the fortresses that was built by Saladin, or Salah ad-Din, as he was called.
In 1187, he recaptures Jerusalem, a prestigious victory for Saladin, and a turning point in the war against the Crusaders.
Yep.
Since the 8th century, Muslim merchants and Sufi mystics have traveled the Silk Roads, deep into Central and Eastern Asia. The number of converts to Islam grows steadily.
Mongols.
Among them, Berk Khan, grandson of Mongol conqueror Genghis Khan.
Really? Wow.
Berk is said to have encountered a caravan of Muslim merchants at Bukhara and been persuaded by their piety.
So fascinating to see how, sometimes in our minds we think of Genghis Khan, the Romans, the Islamic Caliphate. We think of them as distinct places and times in history, but they really do intersect over and over again. And so it's fascinating to see this intersection of the Mongol Empire with the Islamic Empire.
For now, most Mongols remain loyal to their animist beliefs. In 1258, Berk's cousin Hulagu launches a devastating campaign against Muslim lands.
You know, we think so much about the Crusades going on during this time, and we don't think that just over to the east all this is going on.
The destruction of Baghdad and execution of the Caliph.
Wow.
But with time, Muslim faith and culture will conquer the Mongols. Within a century, 3 of the largest Mongol Khanates, from Russia to India, take Islam as their new religion.
Wow. No, I had no idea. Learn a lot
In
here.
Southeast Asia, centuries of contact with Muslim traders is also accelerating the spread of Islam.
So this is really fascinating because I had no idea that Islam had spread to what is now Indonesia as early as it had. I mean, we're talking about one of the largest Muslim populations in anywhere on the planet.
Around 1267, on the island of Sumatra, the Samudra Pasai Sultanate is founded, which becomes a center of Islamic learning and trade. During this period, a new Sufi order emerges in the Sultanate of Rum. The Mevlevi order, who become famous for their whirling dervish ritual, seek spiritual enlightenment and gain steadily in popularity. The 14th century sees rival dynasties vying for control in the Muslim heartlands. The Mamluks in Egypt, the Ilkhanate in Persia, and the many Turkic states of Anatolia, of which one will soon emerge as perhaps the greatest Muslim empire of them all.
So fascinating to look at 1330 and see this small little chunk around Gallipoli and you know, northwestern Anatolia, and thinking, oh man, these are the people that are going to basically dominate the next 500 years of the Muslim world.
The 1300s see the dawn of a mighty new Muslim empire.
I am a little disappointed that, you know, kind of thinking back here, we didn't talk a little more about the clashes between the Muslims and the Franks in what is now France, because, you know, had the battles like Tours gone a different way, maybe Islam spreads into what is now France and even Germany and places like that.
Osman I rules a small Turkic state in northwest Anatolia. Through a series of stunning conquests, his successors forged the Ottoman Empire in modern Turkey. The Ottomans later advance into the Balkans, conquering Bulgaria, Serbia, and Bosnia.
And at this point, the Eastern Roman Empire is nearly extinct, and it's going to become completely extinct in another couple of decades.
Over time, many locals convert to Islam, attracted by economic benefits, legal privileges, and roles in Ottoman government. In 1453, Sultan Mehmet II conquers Constantinople, the former heart of the Eastern Roman Empire and of Orthodox Christianity, becomes an Islamic Ottoman capital.
One of the most important years in all of history right there. I mean, this cannot be overstated what a big deal the fall of Constantinople is. And that's why a lot of historians use 1453 as the date that they end kind of the medieval period and start kind of coming into the next era of history. Others, like, you know, people in the UK might point to 1485 with the start of the Tudor dynasty as the end of the medieval period.
In Southeast Asia, Islam's influence continues to alter the religious landscape. The ruler of Malacca converts in 1414. He takes the title Sultan Iskandar Shah and makes Islam the state religion. Through commerce and alliances, the new sultanate helps Islam to spread further in the region. In 1478, the Demak Sultanate emerges as the first major Muslim state in Java. Meanwhile, in Europe, Granada, the last Muslim stronghold in Iberia, falls to Christian forces in 1492.
And we did a video covering the Reconquista, that time when Muslims are being pushed out of the Iberian Peninsula, and I'll put that up on the screen, on the end screen, if you want to check that video out.
It marks the end of almost 8 centuries of Muslim rule in Spain. Spanish Muslims and Jews face forced conversion to Catholicism and ultimately expulsion. In 1501, Shah Ismail I conquers Persia. He is the founder of the Safavid dynasty and declares Twelver Shi'ism the new state religion. It is why today Iran is an overwhelmingly Shia country.
Yep.
In 1517, Ottoman Sultan Selim I conquers Egypt and the Hejaz. He now controls Islam's 2 holiest sites, at Mecca and Medina, and declares himself the new Caliph. The title will be held by Ottoman sultans for the next 400 years.
And this is one of the reasons why you will occasionally hear that in the news today. People talking about various groups wanting to create a new caliphate, right? They're looking back to these glory days of Islam when it was all united and controlled large parts of the Middle East and Western Asia and even North Africa, and they're aspiring to be the ones who bring that back.
In 1526, Babur, a descendant of Chinggis Khan, defeats the Delhi Sultanate. He lays the foundations of the Muslim Mughal Empire that will rule over much of India and its Hindu majority for the next 2 centuries.
So this is the area that part of which is going to one day become Pakistan.
But elsewhere, there are signs that Muslim power is beginning to wane. The Russians defeat the Khanates of Kazan, Astrakhan, and Sibir.
And why is this able to happen now? Well, this is when the Russians are starting to consolidate and fortify themselves, right? As internal struggles dissipate, they start focusing on external struggles. And it's one great way to unite various groups of people with whom you've had disagreements, to give them a common enemy.
While Ottoman naval power suffers a first major check at the Battle of Lepanto. The high water mark of Ottoman expansion comes a century later at the failed siege of Vienna.
And do you know why it failed? Go ahead, say it. Because the winged hussars arrived.
From around this point on, the 2 great Muslim empires, the Ottoman and Mughal, find themselves increasingly challenged by internal divisions and external foes. In 18th century Arabia, the reformist Wahhabi movement is born, characterized by suspicion of many traditional Islamic beliefs and practices. It acquires political influence through alliance with the Al Saud family.
The Saud family. Sound familiar? The Al Saud family? Saudi Arabia?
Saudi state. The 19th century is an age of rampant European colonialism. Its targets include several Muslim countries, such as Algeria, Libya, Egypt, and Sudan. In several places, Islam becomes a powerful aspect of resistance to Christian colonizers. Colonialism also contributes to the birth of a new fundamentalist movement, Salafism, which seeks a return to the practices of the early Muslim community. Some of its followers will turn to armed jihad to challenge those it sees as occupiers and oppressors of Muslims. Following Ottoman defeat in World War I, Turkish leader Kemal Atatürk attempts to steer the country towards a more secular future.
So, we often think about the early 1920s as the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, but the Ottoman Empire had been collapsing for a long time. And immediately before World War I, you have the wars here in the Balkans, and those don't go particularly well for the Ottomans. But the Ottomans have been dealing with an increasingly poor level of leadership for centuries. And, from their peak period, they're just on this steady, slow decline. And it just is a matter of time that it collapses in the 1920s. But out of that is born the modern nation of Turkey.
As part of the process, in 1924, he dissolves the Ottoman Caliphate, a title Turkish rulers had claimed for 4 centuries. The political earthquakes of the 20th century, world wars, communist revolution, and decolonization profoundly alter the political map of Islam.
That's a great point. We think of all these nations: Libya, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan. But consider that for most of their history, those borders didn't exist, much like the borders that we have in modern nations around the world haven't existed. So, these ideas we have in our minds of these particular lines on a map are all fairly new in world terms.
August 1945, Indonesia declares independence from Dutch colonial rule. It becomes home to the world's largest Muslim population.
People forget that.
As the British Empire recedes, it leaves behind new divisions. In 1947, the partition of India creates the Muslim-majority states of West and East Pakistan, which later becomes Bangladesh. In 1948...
So you're talking about Pakistan. West Pakistan becomes Pakistan. East Pakistan becomes Bangladesh.
The new Jewish state of Israel is founded in what had been British Mandate Palestine. In 1979, the Iranian Revolution overthrows the Shah and establishes a Shia Islamic Republic, led by Ayatollah Khomeini. In the late 20th century, historic colonial ties and economic migration lead to the growth of Muslim communities across Western Europe and North.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that's kind of what's happening in the modern time, right? And this has been discussed in the news quite a bit, oftentimes by people who are not happy with that happening and the changing nature and demographic of their communities. But we do see very strong Muslim migration from various nations, and we shouldn't just say, Muslim migration as if they're all one, monolith. These are different groups of Muslims from different places that are settling in these areas. But you see that if you visit any of these big cities in Western Europe today, you're going to see significant Muslim populations there.
North America. Muslims become an integral part of the Western cultural landscape. Just as on the global stage, dangerous new tensions emerge. In 2001, a militant Islamic network called Al-Qaeda attacks the Twin Towers in New York. Suddenly, across much of the West, Islam is seen as a threat, vilified by some media and politicians.
Hey, the only thing I'll say about that, and I think most of us understand this, but I would just encourage anybody who forms your opinion of an entire group based on a small percentage of them, a small, very vocal, very active, very violent percentage, to please just keep in mind that whoever that group is, that doesn't necessarily represent all of them. Every Muslim person that I have personally known in my life has been a warm, wonderful, caring, welcoming, accepting, tolerant person. And I can't say enough good things about some of the wonderful Muslim friends that I've made over time. None of them in any way resemble the men that did the things that happened on 9/11, just as I have repeatedly had people tell me that when they meet me and get to know me that I don't seem like the picture they had in their minds of what a Christian is. And that's because, unfortunately, many Christians have become associated with people like the Westboro Baptist Church or people that just say hateful, awful things. And that is just not who most of us are, just like that is not who most Muslims are.
A gulf grows between how most Muslims see their faith and some perceptions in the West.
Right. Yeah, and I've talked, like, just in Egypt in December and talking to Muslims there, and many of them were like, man, we don't understand those guys that did what they did on 9/11 or the things that have happened other times since then. Like to them, for them that is not Islam. Like, they look at that and they say, no, that's not my faith. That's not who we are.
Tensions between religious and political extremists persist in the West to the present day. There have also been serious conflicts between the state and some Muslim groups in Russia,
Afghanistan,
ongoing persecution in China, and an escalating conflict in Israel-Palestine. These are not the first crises in Islam's 1400-year history, a period in which the religion has shown incredible endurance and adaptability. Carried by traders and conquerors, it has traveled to distant lands, from Iberia to Indonesia, uniting peoples and inspiring the rise of great civilizations. Whether seen through the lens of faith or history,
both.
The rise of Islam is one of the most remarkable journeys in our collective past. Its legacy lives on in the 1.9 billion Muslims on Earth today.
A quarter of the world's population. All right, that was good. I learned a ton, and I'm definitely interested to learn more. I would love, in particular, if you are watching and you personally, if you are a Muslim, and I know we have many Muslim viewers, would love to hear from you. How did you feel about that? Do you feel like that accurately portrayed things as you understand them? What would you add? What would you want the rest of us to learn so that we can all learn together? Check out the end screen here in just a second. I'll put up a couple of videos that are connected to this, so where you can continue to learn from some other videos that I've done. Thanks for watching.